So now we're going to do some examples of conversational hooks so you can actually see them. When you're about to tell a story, what can you do to get people engaged from the onset? Because the exposition can be boring. So here's one example.
Now, were you always an on-air personality, talent analyst, or what were you doing?
No, I have had a crazy career.
Tell me about it.
Crazy. Okay.
That's exactly what you're looking for. You give this one sentence thing that gets people engaged. And in this case, yes, it's an interview, but Lewis says, tell me about it. If you can get that going in conversation where people want to listen to your stories before you start, that's so helpful. Here's another example. In this particular example, what you're going to see are two hooks, and that's going to also have an open loop at the end, meaning that he's going to start on something and then go in a different direction. You don't want to abuse this, but if you do this, people will be like, wait a second, tell me about that first thing that you said, which can keep their attention for longer. Darren Brown is a master of this, so take a quick look.
It was amazing. I've toured for like 20 years in the UK, and I do a brand new show every 2 years. So this show, Miracle, was like one of the recent shows, and in that whole experience, that kind of career, nothing was as interesting as doing this every night. And see, because you basically there's
right there, nothing was as interesting as doing this every night, and then we don't get it, and he starts to divert himself. He also said, it's amazing at the very beginning of all that, which makes us go, okay, what is he going to say next? So just watch a little bit more as he kind of goes off track, and then we'll go to one last example.
Kind of two components to this idea of faith healing, at least as I see it, and certainly as I was doing it, and I was learning from the faith healers and using their techniques.
So now he's getting into explication. This stuff isn't necessarily as arresting, but because he started with, it's so interesting, that makes us go, okay, wherever we're headed is going to be fascinating. Here is one last example. You will see this again tomorrow, but just wanted to touch on it really quick. Remember, with hooking, we're trying to say something that is immediately interesting, makes people want to listen more. It's it's superlative, whatever. And in this case, as Tony says,
the most seminal moment for me was...
The most seminal moment for me, right? This is the beginning of everything. He asked him the question. He said, you want to know when it actually started? That is engaging because it was leading towards the question that Lewis had asked him, which is, how did you get started? So, the most seminal moment. And that's huge. So remember, pulling all this together, really what you're trying to do is just come up with one line that buys you 30 seconds of exposition before you have to be interesting again. That's the point of a hook. And if you do that, we're going to talk about how you can carry people through the rest of your story with things that will keep them engaged throughout in the days to come.